listening to the Nerds Out of Water podcast, Nerd News, with Michael Lobb and David Camus. Welcome to the Nerds Out of Water podcast. This is a podcast that David and I do regularly where we talk about techno news and interesting things in the world of technology that affect the world. David runs One Bright Cloud, where he heads up a team of techs and futurists looking at things like autonomous vehicles, AI, and public safety.
Michael runs Team Scales, and he helps companies keep software development projects on track, on time, and on budget.
We challenge our own perspectives when we're talking, and we try to see things from each other's perspective. We don't always agree. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. But after listening to what we've got to say, you're definitely going to have an idea about what we're talking about. So, David, the first topic I want to talk about is overwhelming. I don't even know where to start with this, but Australia is on fire. The sheer magnitude of what destruction is happening to the wildlife and the forestry and the environment is don't even have words for it. I know we talked about this last week or 2 weeks ago, but what
I think every week we've spoken, we have come around the fact that these fires are a little worse and a little worse and a little worse. We now have what they're calling super infernos, where the fires are joining up. Here in Sanford, where I am, we had rain on Christmas Day, which was wonderful. It was the first rain we'd had in 5 months, and we had 30 millimetres. Doesn't sound much, but it was a blessing for us.
It dampened things, which was amazing. We had the same around here where I live, and I think you mentioned last time we spoke that the water tank was full, and around here that's a pretty good thing, but for you that's a critical thing. I've got friends in New South Wales whose water tanks, and not only that, but their bores ran out of water like 2 or 3 weeks ago.
And that's really hard when there is no water. And I don't think anyone quite understands what it's like not to have water until you have no water.
Showers, washing dishes, cooking. Those sorts of things are the last things you think about. Like drinking is like the number one thing. Look, for me, I listen to the news quite regularly. I don't want to bury my head in the sand, but it's got to the point where I can't read the news or listen to the news without feeling an overwhelming sense of anxiety and concern for the entire country and the world. And I'm you know what I'm like. I'm not a very not very stable when it comes to those sorts of things, and I don't know how to deal with it.
Well, at the present time, as of around about midday today, on the 9th of January, I think it was 2,600 homes have been lost across Australia.
Oh, jeez. And that's 500,000 animals. 500,000 animals. They're saying that some species could go extinct.
Could be completely wiped out over this.
That's crazy.
It was about 3 months ago, or 2 months ago, we had a number of bushfires around us here. One of them was only a matter of 3 or 4 kilometres away. We had the water bombers dropping down onto it. And it was pretty scary. We had a watch and act. We did not have to leave our house. But because we had no water, we were totally reliant on water coming from around about 40 kilometres away.
Right, okay.
That's a long way to carry water.
So they're trucking it in?
Yeah, to truck it in to fight the fires. We had 14 crews on the ground. We had 2 water bombers. We had the helicopter water bomber. And, it took them sort of 14, 18 hours to get it under control. But we were lucky. We sat here for months in smoke-ridden haze, and even up to before Christmas. And I don't think anyone can understand what a smoky haze is unless you've been in it. And Sydney right now...
half the nation at the moment, the bottom
right,
half
Sydney,
of the nation.
Canberra, they're all covered in this haze. Melbourne, and then there's the outback towns
and New
that
Zealand.
have been covered in it.
And New Zealand, covered in haze.
And the haze coming from our fires is now travelling and has travelled half the circumference of the world. It's now causing pollution in cities all around the world. This is an amazing, scary situation to be in. It's
one in how many years? Like, is this going to be the future of Australia, or is this like a 1 in 100 year thing? I don't know. I'm not a climate scientist, and I can only go on what I've been reading in the news. But from everything that I've been seeing, this is going to be what it's like for the foreseeable future.
So you may be able to hear in the background, we have a family here from Canberra who are visiting us because their home is under threat. They're telling us that there are no more masks left in Bunnings stores or anywhere else. You can't buy masks. They've run out. You can't get puffers from the pharmacy because the pharmacies have run out of puffers for children.
Asthma sufferers asthma sufferers must be driving them
horrific. Yeah, one of these is an asthma sufferer, and they have come up here to purchase asthma medication because they've run out of it in Canberra.
Wow. So what can we do? And, I know that there are, if you go on Google and you search for somewhere to donate, you can donate money. One of our comedians, Celeste Barber, who is a great comedian, has raised more than $30 million for firefighters and victims. If you go on Google... That's
really commendable. That's amazing.
I know. And you get, there's people on... There's celebrities donating ridiculous amounts of money. I read today, Metallica, Keith Urban and Nicole Kidman have been, they've all been donating money to the bushfire appeal. But what does that do? And one of the things that we've been thinking about in the last couple of days is, when you donate money, where does it go and what does it do? Because the people that are losing their houses and losing their livestock and everything, they will be insured, and the insurance companies will need to pay out, or the underwriters will need to pay out, or there'll be some sort of situation where they need to pay out. But what we're not doing is supporting our firefighters. We're not supporting our volunteer firefighters. We need to support the growth after those fires have been extinguished and after those fires have been turned off. What is this money going to do, and how can we rebuild these townships and these rural areas so that they're back up to where they were again?
I agree. And I think Andrew Forrest, who recently donated
Andrew Forrest,
something like $70 million, he made a very good statement in his press conference by saying, this isn't political money. This isn't global warming money. He doesn't want to get into that conversation. He just wants to provide money for people who are being devastated. And
I agree with that.
Yeah, I agree with that too. And something else is those firefighters who are volunteers who have lost their jobs because they are fighting other people's fires and haven't been at home for months. And they've lost their own job because of what they're doing. It's quite an emotional stance, isn't
it? To reiterate what you said before, this isn't a political issue. This is not just caused by climate change. Climate change has created an environment where this has made it worse. But this is a whole bunch of other stuff as well. And it's not a political issue. There are people suffering, and we need to help them. The world has stood up and they've said, let's help these people.
Yeah. And we don't want to get into the arguments of whether we should have backburned, whether we shouldn't have backburned, whether we should have done X, Y, or Z, whether it was this fault or that fault. It's happening. And we need to resolve it by helping people somehow.
Yep. All right. So we agree on that. One thing we may not agree on is in regards to suspended animation. Right now, I wish we could suspend the Australian outback at the moment and the Australian environment at the moment. But there's an article come out in November on the New Scientist website saying that they've placed humans, actual people, into suspended animation for the first time. There's no real details around what they've done. Or how many they've done this on. I know that they've done it on pigs before, but they haven't done it on this is the first time they've done it on humans. What this is they've placed a person into suspended animation by cooling them down to around 10 or 15 degrees Celsius by replacing all of their blood with ice-cold saline.
Just to reiterate that, Michael.
Yeah.
That is replacing all of their blood.
All of their blood with saline.
Ice.
So they're basically disconnected from their body, which would otherwise be classified as dead, and they're moved to an operating theatre where they've got about 2 hours to fix the person's injuries before they're warmed up again, blood's pumped into them, and their heart is restarted. So the idea is that they don't know how long this could last, but every hour or so that the person is without blood going to their brain, obviously there's going to be damage. This is outside of consent because the person is legally dead, or they're going to be legally dead if they don't do anything. So, if someone comes into the ER and they've got damage beyond repair and they've got 8 minutes to fix this problem and it's going to take them, an hour and a half to actually repair the problem, then this is actually an option where they can do this procedure where they replace your blood with ice-cold saline, reduce your body temperature, gives them about 2 hours to operate, and then they reanimate you, I guess.
Michael, this is bloody amazing stuff. This is really scary shit. We are.
Hang on, is it amazing or scary?
It's amazingly scary. This is getting people who have had a trauma. They've had a cardiac arrest, so their heart has stopped, and then they are replacing their blood with saline to fix them. Emergency preservation resuscitation. It's an amazing technique that is going to change how we operate on people.
Now they're really important. One of the really important things that they've tried to point out is that they're not trying to send people off on interstellar missions. They're not trying to put people into suspended animation for years and years and years yet. They don't know how long this. There's a bunch of side effects that come along with the suspended animation that they're talking about. There's a thing called reperfusion injuries, in which a series of chemical reactions damage their cells the longer that they're without oxygen. So, damage occurs when you don't have oxygen. So there are drugs to help minimize those injuries. And in theory, and this is what I'm excited about, I guess, apart from the other thing of actually saving people who could otherwise die, is that we could send people off on interstellar missions if we were able to get that cocktail of drugs right to not just minimize but eliminate the injuries that could be installed by being without oxygen for that long. But in the short term, wow, we've just bought ourselves an hour and 45 to actually operate on someone when they've had a gunshot wound, for example.
Yeah, it is. I'll go back. It's amazingly scary. I think this is very clever technology. It has been on trial for many, many years. We already around the world ice people to slow down their heart in EDs when they've had a major cardiac arrest. I'm not a GP or a doctor or medical, so if I use the wrong terminology, please forgive me, but I know we already ice people to slow down their pulse rate. But this is taking things another step by actually changing their blood for saline. And this is something that you watch on TV and you look at it and go, wow, there. But now we're doing it in real life.
We're doing it in real life. This is science fiction. This is not just fiction anymore. This is science. There's cryogenic freezing available, isn't there?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And
have they ever brought anybody out of that?
I don't know.
Not to my knowledge. My knowledge is we can put people we can freeze people, but we do not yet have the technology to bring them out.
But the idea is we freeze them, and at some stage in the future we'll have the opportunity to bring them out. That's what I thought.
That's
whereas in this particular case, we are bringing them out of suspended animation.
Mm-hmm. So as we're putting this ice cold saline into people, we're now dropping nanobots into that ice cold saline, and now, of course, I'm going off track a little, and that is repairing the injuries from the inside out, while we're also repairing the injuries from the outside in.
The trauma, yeah, exactly. So this is like I said, this is science. It's not just science. It's not science fiction anymore.
So you think this is going to take us into outer space? That's what you...
I would like to think that this is a start of suspended animation for longer periods of time. I know, every science fiction movie you see, when someone's in suspended animation or cryogenic freezing, when they wake up, they vomit. That's just how it happens. Maybe that is, I'd like to think that this is, there is some damage that happens when you're in that long, and I'd like to see that this is a way that we could get to perhaps another galaxy. Maybe that takes us 1,000 years. Maybe that takes us 10,000 years, but maybe we wake up and we're in a different planet.
And Dr. Lewis, who's the director of the Division of Neurocritical Care, where they're trialling this, interesting last statement there. This is just the first steps. We have to see whether it works, and then we can start to think about how and where we can use it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, David, what have you got today?
What have I got today? There is a large blob off of the coast of New Zealand. It's in the sea. It's approximately 150,000 square kilometres, and it's a piece of sea that is 10 degrees warmer than anywhere else.
So basically someone's having a hungy underneath the ocean.
Yeah. Why 150,000 square kilometres of sea is 10 degrees warmer?
So, is there any explanation for this? I haven't completely read the article yet.
Well, the experts are saying that it's due, they believe, and there's no evidence yet, but they believe it's due to the fact that the winds in that area have dropped and stopped.
Okay.
In this little bit of ocean, and I'm calling it a little bit of ocean because there's billions of square kilometres.
In comparison to the rest of the world, yeah.
That's right. In this 150,000 square kilometres of ocean, just off of New Zealand, is a drift of hot water. And they're sending people out to go and look at what fish are there and what the wildlife is around it. But this is an amazing thing. They've never recorded it before. Now, that may be because they haven't had the technology to record it. But the satellite imagery is very interesting to show how warm this water is.
So just looking at the satellite imagery, it looks like a cyclone, but an anti-cyclone. Unlike some people on the internet, I am not a meteorologist, and I have no idea what I'm talking about when it comes to this. But it's a circular, round spot off the coast of New Zealand, in between New Zealand and South America. And about a third of the way across, and it looks like it's a big circular anticyclone that is warm. And yeah, there's another one up the top near, at the top of that satellite image near Greenland, I believe. That looks very similar, except it's off the coast of Greenland rather than in the middle of the ocean. So I wonder what's happening.
That one's an expected area of warm water due to the ocean currents.
Yeah.
This one is an unexpected. And interesting you use the word anticyclone, because what you're actually looking at in that imagery is heat, not wind.
Right.
But another article I read about this is actually calling it an anticyclone.
Okay.
It doesn't have any wind. So they're calling it an anticyclone. There's no movement of air to cool the water down, because obviously when air goes over water, it creates a cooling effect.
So let's talk about artificial intelligence. We should be able to map scenarios based on historical data of where winds are blowing and where they're likely to be blowing. Is this something that we could map through AI?
Definitely.
And forecast?
Definitely. If you go on the Bureau of Meteorology site, they do that for cyclones since, I believe, around about 1900s. They have every cyclone on Australian waters that they have ever recorded. Very interesting, because you can see the directions of most of the cyclones. But they've never had something like this. They've never had an anticyclone that creates a hot blob.
And do you think
Do you
think this is climate change related, or do you think this is just something that is going to happen regularly and we just missed it before?
I think it's something that has happened before, and we've never picked it up because we haven't had the accurate imagery. Can't prove that, obviously. Yeah. And they are saying it's not climate related. They're saying that it is a natural phenomena where the wind has just died down for some reason, but nobody can point to it ever happening before.
And does the article say what effect this is having on the marine life in that area?
No, that's why they've sent out a number of ships already to look at what marine life is. I haven't seen any articles that talk about the marine life around this.
Could it be a UFO?
Well, that's dropped into the water. It seems to be a bit warm, so it's cooling itself off at the bottom of the ocean, and then it's going to poke its little head up.
I've seen Transformers. I know how this ends.
I don't know if this is Transformers. I think these are little tripods.
Oh, the
War of the Worlds.
Right, got it. Going along with that, obviously one thing.
Thanks for changing the subject, John, to War of the Worlds.
Speaking of War of the Worlds, I learnt today that the Earth's magnetic pole is moving at 55 kilometers per year. Which to me is astounding. This is a magnetic pole that, we've always, since I was born, I expected that the magnetic pole was always at the same place, at the North Pole and the South Pole. But that North Pole and South Pole changes. And it's been moving at 55 kilometers per year over the past 20 years. That's half my life. So I'm astounded by that.
Just to clarify, the poles are exactly where they are. Mm-hmm. The magnetic pole,
which is what we base compasses on, and what we base satellites on, and what we base everything on. And it's all to do with magnets. And
every 100,000 years or so, the Earth has flipped.
Wait, did you just quote a Tenacious D song? Once every 100,000 years or so.
Unintentionally, but yes.
Well done.
Yeah, I try my hardest.
Anyway, so what effect is this having?
So this
is obviously
Yeah, it is actually changing. So all of our compasses point to the magnetic pole, and that is moving faster than it has ever moved before. And as you say, 50 kilometers or 55 kilometers a year, heading towards Siberia, I believe. That's quite a way. That's not just a little bit. And as the Earth spins, the core of the Earth spins slightly differently. And if that core moves, then the poles move. And the moon and the sun both have a effect on how the core of the Earth changes. And as I said, every certain period of time over the history of the Earth, the poles have swapped. Now, we're being told that this is not one of those times. What the effects of that would be if we had a pole swap would be amazing. From everything from the way the water goes down the plug hole would change to our compasses.
What would be the most drastic effect? What's the most dramatic effect that would happen if that was to happen?
Well, GPS systems would probably have to have a software update, and that wouldn't be too bad.
So
manual
Y2K
compasses would
again.
be completely throwaway items. What do they call it? A flip-flop. There we go. There's a new term for you. The Earth's field flip-flop.
Yeah, in New Zealand we call that a jandal, mate.
No, not a... When the Earth's magnetic core changes, it's called a flip-flop. And I'm just reading it quickly as we go through. The last time it occurred was 780,000 years ago. Right. They're saying this probably, that's a bit scary, this probably is not this, because they believe it's too soon. But it will have a notable effect on biology and on animals around the world.
Okay.
Hadn't even thought about that one. Very interesting. How about this? The airports are renaming their runways because of this.
Because the runways are named based on the direction that they're facing.
Yeah.
And in Alaska...
That was Fairbanks International Airport, yeah.
Yeah, they've had to rename their airstrip because it's facing slightly a different direction based on magnets, the magnetic poles.
Well, I never...
That's
wonder
crazy.
What the effect... If you know what the effect is on the animal and the wildlife, I would love you to comment or send us an email, because it would be very interesting to have someone who knows what they're talking about explain what the effects is on biology and alike.
Cool. All right.
Now, before we go off,
all right.
Of course, there was a wonderful movie about the Earth's core stopping.
Was it called The Core?
The Core, where they sent a team of drillers down to set off nuclear bombs at certain points around the Earth's core to start it up again.
The Core got a Rotten Tomatoes score of 40%.
Oh, I liked it.
The audience score was 34%. So, and this is one of the rare cases where the critics thought it was better than the audience thought.
That's yeah.
I mean, I'm a big fan of Aaron Eckhart. I think he's had a good run. Wow. Yeah, some people liked it, some people hated it.
And I believe on the NASA picks of most unrealistic movies, this is one of the top most unrealistic movie.
Yeah.
There you go.
I'd say Armageddon was actually more realistic than this one.
It is, according to NASA.
Right, okay.
There we go. So we've now stopped the Earth. We have a blob that's out of War of the Worlds.
But we're all in suspended animation, so no one cares. What else have you got today for me?
Oh, this is a bit of a scary one because we have often spoken about smartwatches.
I don't wear a watch. I seem to recall talking about this.
Yeah, well, I was given the opportunity by the wonderful guys at Team Scale to trial out a Samsung Galaxy Watch, a Samsung Galaxy Active, and, dare I say it, an Apple Watch.
Okay. So you're not an Apple guy. You're an Android guy. You've probably had Samsungs and HTCs and things like that, and the Apple Watch.
I've never been an Apple guy. And so I tried. And you can go online and you can look up the screen sizes and everything else.
Yeah, all the statistics, and you can nerd out on how many pixels there are and blah, 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 and how many sensors there are. So so you're trying out 3 watches. What were you trying? What was your requirements? What were you hoping for? What were your dreams?
I wanted to see how it felt, whether one watch did something sexier than the other watch, and how long the battery lasted and that sort of thing. I have to say, between the Samsung Galaxy, the Galaxy Active, and the Apple Watch, there's not much difference in capability.
Okay.
They all tell you how fast you're going, how good you're running, how wet your heart is, your barometer, your GPS, all of that. They're all water resistant. They all do it. Mm-hmm. I like the fact that Samsung works with the Apple phone while the Apple doesn't work with anything.
Yep. Oh, it does. It works with an iPhone.
Yeah, apart from the Apple.
You're locked into an ecosystem when you start buying into Apple, and that's one of my gripes with Apple. As much as I am an Apple user and I use a Mac and I use a iPhone, I lament the fact that I can't use iCloud on my Samsung tablet, and when I'm using my Windows computer, I can't do certain things.
Yeah, and they all have little touch screens. They all have little dials where you can spin them around, little bevel dials. Both the Samsungs come in 2 different sizes.
Can I just stop you there? My dumb watch has a swivel bevel, so I can turn that bevel around.
And what does it do?
And that points to a point in time that basically says where is 12 o'clock, that I can change to say this is the time zone that I'm in, and this is the time zone that I've come from, and I can see, oh my God, there's 12 o'clock if I'm looking straight up, and if I turn it to where the bevel is pointing straight up, that's what 12 o'clock looks like somewhere else.
Michael, these have a GPS. They update automatically. But, if I'm wearing a Samsung, either of the Samsungs, and the Apple at the same time.
Yeah, we're wearing 3 watches at the same time.
I wore 2 at the same time for a while to see what would happen.
One on each wrist.
One on each wrist. And I trialled this out 3 different times. With the Samsungs, apparently I have a lower calorie burn off than the Apple. Obviously, that's so just a technical.
Obviously better because you're actually burning more calories.
Yes, obviously burning more calories. For me, I enjoyed wearing the Samsung Galaxy Watch. I enjoyed the Samsung Watch, the Galaxy. The Galaxy Active and the Galaxy both come with this offline mode where you don't have to carry your phone. It has a little a SIM card inside it that adds $5 onto your account but works without your phone. They both have a option of, as does the Apple, of answering your phone on the watch. And of course, I said I'd never, ever do that. I have to say, while I'm walking around the house, I don't usually carry my phone. And I have answered my phone 6 times and said, hold on, I don't know where my phone is. I've answered you on my watch.
So does the watch have a set of speakers in there that you can actually talk to?
Speakers and microphone, yes.
So you could actually do the whole conversation on your watch?
And I have done. Beam me up, Scotty.
Yeah, because I know, like I said to you, I don't wear a watch and I probably won't buy a smartwatch. I'd probably deal with some other form of wearable, but I know people who do have the watch. They are often wearing AirPods. They've got an Apple Watch and they're wearing AirPods, and they do most of their phone conversations using their watch and their AirPods, and their phone sits in their bag, and everything they do is on their watch. The thing that people have told me is that it actually saves them distraction, because rather than picking up their phone, looking at their phone, figuring out what's happened, they can actually set what alerts come through their watch. Like, I've got a new email, I've got a new text message, whatever, but they can look at their watch and that's, okay, don't need to deal with that.
Yep, and I've been doing that quite a lot. And I like the Galaxy. It's a little bit chunkier.
Mm-hmm.
It has a better battery life.
I like a chunky watch. I do prefer this. Is the Galaxy circular?
It is circular, so that's the other difference. The Apple is a rectangularly square.
That's weird to me. That's like, I don't want a rectangular watch.
But some people love it. Some people love that design.
Those people are called Apple fanboys.
And I have now gone down the path. I now own the Samsung Galaxy. My wife owns the Galaxy Active. And I have to say, over the last 4 weeks, I've really enjoyed it. And I'll keep you updated. I have not had any real problems with it. I love the updates it gives me. I can tell it what to update me on and what not to update me on. The Galaxy Active has got a few people have had it overheating when charging. I didn't have any of that, and I've never witnessed it.
How long does the battery last in these watches?
Okay, on the larger, the 46mm Samsung Galaxy, which is what I've got, I'm getting around about 3 days, maybe 4 days.
Okay.
The Galaxy Active is 1 to 2 days.
All right.
And that's very similar to the Apple Watch.
Okay.
1 to 2 days.
So if Casio want to make a G-Shock version of any of these, or if Tag want to make a version of any of these, I'd probably buy it. Yeah,
the Tag would be interesting, because that would be a chunky style watch like a Tag, and that would be quite interesting. And I think they should go the line of the Samsung Galaxy rather than the Apple, but hey, look, how am I to sell Tag watches?
You're sticking with the Galaxy Watch, and that's going to... Have you paid for that? Or is that still a freebie?
I've been provided a Galaxy Watch, and we paid for the Galaxy Active Watch.
Okay.
And to trial them out, and the Apple Watch we have handed back. Okay. And it was I tried to be very honest with the Apple Watch, because I'm not an Apple person, and I have to say there was, to me, very little difference between the Galaxy Active and the Apple Watch, apart from the squareness of it, apart from a few little things. Interestingly, with the Galaxy Active, if I did a workout with it, that drained the battery faster. Right. While with the Apple Watch, it was a constant drain. Didn't matter what you did, but they both ran out at the same time.
And were you listening to music with them?
I was listening to music for a short time with them. I took them all into the ocean, and they're very. I love the the wet feature on the Galaxy, where it has a little motor that expels water from any of the orifices around the...
And just to be clear, these are splash proof. They're not actually diving watches, right?
No, they're not diving watches, but they are... you can take them to around about 10 to 20 meters. I can't remember exactly, but it's quite deep.
Okay, well, wow.
So I enjoyed it. I now have a Galaxy Watch. It's telling me I'm meant to be doing a podcast, which is what we're doing. And I have had a lot of fun doing this. And after all the times I've said I will never wear anything on my wrist, I am now wearing something on my wrist again.
So are you challenging me?
Ooh, let's see if somebody can challenge you from outside and give you something to trial.
Yeah. Yeah, like I don't know, a Google...
Tesla.
Cybertruck. A Cybertruck. Someone give me a Cybertruck, please. You know I hate it, and you know that I'm going to give it the worst report ever, because, if you can convert me, then you can convert anyone.
Once you've pulled that Barbie out and cooked on the front lawn of your house in your Cybertruck, you're going to love it.
It'll be a new Australian term. Throw another shrimp on the Barbie on your Cybertruck.
Throw another shrimp on the Cybertruck.
Anyway, with that, I think we're over. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. Please subscribe using your favorite podcasting software and make sure to comment and rate us on your podcasting platform, whether that's Apple or Google or whatever you use.
If you have anything you wish us to talk about, send us a message and we'll have a look at what to talk about and how we should talk about it and how we can take the mickey out of each other.
All right. Take care, everybody. See you later.
Look after yourselves in these fires. Bye-bye.
Bye.